Probably the girl that I was most touched by, her name is Banchayu, and she was 18 years old, and she just came off to me as being very honest and open person, and she was the first person to answer when I asked the question, where would you girls be if you couldn't be in this group home? And she looked to testify and she said, I would probably be a sex trade worker, because her parents had died when she was young. Her mother had died when she was very young, and yeah, so I was struck by that.
One of the questions I have is what happens to the girls when they graduate from the girls' home that we are supporting in Deborah Marcos?
So most of the girls will go on to university or vocational school, and lots of these girls have gone on to Laura's Place, and it's a girls' group home for girls going to university. So I visited this house in Addis Ababa. Met the 10 girls there. 8 of them were in nursing and 2 of them were in pharmacy.
In meeting and talking to the girls at the girls' home, there's quite a few touching stories. I'm just wondering if you've got any others that you can relate to us.
Yes, I met a girl named Aiden. She's 20 years old, and she completed grade 10, is in vocational school for water engineering. Her role model is Girma, the current first president of Ethiopia. She told me she doesn't remember her mother very well, and her father died when she was in grade 5. After this time, her village looked after her and her brother, and then the local charity who's joined with partners for the girls' group home, HDAMA, found her and also looked after her. But she mentioned that she had a brother, and so Testify said, well, where do you think your brother is today? And she says she wasn't really even sure. She guessed maybe he was in Addis Ababa and was just a street child. So Testify said he was going to look into that and hopefully find him for her.
Over the last couple of years, we've also been supporting bridges over raging rivers during the flood season to help connect communities. I understand you also saw at least one major bridge project. Maybe you could just comment on that for us?
Yes, I saw the largest bridge project that Partners has constructed up to date, and it was 2 bridges that connected 2 large communities. Basically, it was one bridge went up to a center island, and then the second bridge went from that island to the other side, and it was a long stretch of area that people were not able to see each other. They weren't able to transport goods, they weren't able to see their families during barely even during the dry season, let alone the wet season. I was there in the dry season, and I would not cross that river if I had the choice. Even when they were constructing it, I heard one lady was carrying her baby and she got swept away and drowned. And they had to carry up her body onto the one side of the river, and then her family couldn't even like say their goodbyes properly and come take away the body. They had to view the body from the other side of the river and have their funeral that way.
Michele, I know pretty much all of our ambassadors have had little takeaway stories or fun or amusing things that happened to them in their adventures. I'm just wondering if you've got anything you could pass on to us.
I'd say probably the most amusing thing that happened is when we were going to go visit the reforestation areas, because they're quite high on this hill, and Testify, a local farmer, is leading us up there. So he thought nothing of going straight up the mountain, up a very steep hill, to go visit the areas, and he wanted to see all like 5 areas that there was. And so the Testify that we had come with, that was the country representative for Partners, he had to take a long time to explain to the farmer that no, like, me and Christine were not going to be able to make that long hike up, and he was very adamant and very proud of these areas, so he really wanted to show them to us. But no, we took our time and took the long way around. He thought we were crazy, but we made it to the top. And I'd heard previously that they had followed the farmer and gone straight up with a doctor who was supporting one of the Partners' other projects. And by the time this doctor got to the top of the hill, they were throwing up from overexertion. So I'm so glad we didn't take that route.
Well, as you know, we did have a fundraising project for reforestation in GoJam, and I understand you visited that area. How have how has the reforestation project progressed?
It has progressed very well. From what I saw, there was one 2-year-old area where they had planted eucalyptus and apple trees 2 years ago. They were growing very nicely, and the one local farmer there who led us up the mountainside, his name was Testify, and he was so impressed with the progress already. He said before, where the soil was barren, they couldn't grow anything. Now they're able to grow obviously the trees and the apple trees. They can eat the apples from that. There's also grass growing in the area where they chop down and or they cut it by hand and they feed it to their cows. There was a 1-year-old area of eucalyptus and an 8-month-old area that had koso trees. The farmers had recently planted over 40,000 trees there. So Testify also mentioned that he's seeing lots more local wildlife come back to the area.
We often think safety first whenever we're doing our work at EBA. Just wondering what impressions you might have had of any of the construction sites that you saw, either through Partners or even just general construction in Ethiopia.
Well, first of all, there was a lot of construction in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia. They were constantly building skyscrapers everywhere, and most of the skyscrapers were all concrete, and then they were surrounded by scaffolding that was made of like sticks, basically sticks piled on top of each other. It was like staircases made from sticks, like laying side by side, and you'd see guys hanging off the side of buildings, not wearing harnesses, hard hats, steel toe boots, like they were in their flip-flops.
This week is a very important fundraising week. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, having recently come back, what types of contributions can we make as a long-term legacy to the people of Ethiopia?
Well, this week our focus is on the Debre Marcos Girls Group Home. We're hoping to raise at least $17,000, so that'll support the Girls Group Home for 1 year. Anything going above and beyond that, hopefully we can support it for another 2 years after that. It could also go towards computers and TVs. And this would also go above the $50,000 that of corporate money that EBA gives to partners every year towards springs and water wells.
Okay. So, Michele, what do you think we can specifically do to help at the girls' home that you saw?
Well, to go above and beyond the $17,000 that we're giving them, obviously that already includes all the basic necessities, their books. So, but things it wouldn't include is items like computers and a TV, which Testify had mentioned might be useful for them to watch.